All right. Welcome to my individual report too. My name is Dan Cole, and I've chosen Microsoft Corporation. So, why have I chosen Microsoft Corporation? So, sort of relate to Microsoft's journey that they've had as from a startup company to where they've gotten to today. I went into college not really having a lot of connections or really not knowing much about anything. And I feel that I've made so much progress towards achieving my goals within accounting and other classes like finance and management. And since the accounting department has always taught me to strive for that level of success that Microsoft has, I can sort of see myself getting from that starting in the garage point to where they're at now. So, first of all, their primary NAICS code is 511210, which would encompass software publishers, but their other competitive arenas include cloud computing, AI, gaming, cybersecurity, a lot more. And then their main competitors, just in general, would be Amazon, Google, Apple, Oracle, but obviously they have a lot of potentially smaller competitors in smaller divisions of the company. So here's the Pestel analysis. I'm not going to go too in depth here, but I do want to point out the technological factors. So AI advancement is obviously a main factor in Microsoft's growth and their position as a company. Um, as AI is able to develop, they're able to use that more, and they're also able to use that internally as a company. Cloud computing has also become such a red ocean market because there are so many companies getting involved with it now. So that definitely creates some tension for them. And then there's always cyber threats, which have been getting especially blown out of proportion because of AI. There are also legal issues like privacy laws, intellectual property. But yeah, I don't want to go too much into that. So their competitive rivalry would be very high. Um, Amazon, Google, Apple all have a lot of the same services that they offer, but the threat of new entrants would be low since there are massive barriers to entry and it takes so much time to get to the point that Microsoft is at now with all these different divisions. Their supplier power would be low to medium. They have a lot of bargaining power when it comes to their suppliers, so it's not too much of an issue for them. Buyer power is a little bit more of an issue. It's medium since there are a lot of larger enterprises that they have as customers that can negotiate deals with them. And then the threat of substitutes would be medium to high-ish, because there are a lot of open source software and cloud ecosystems out there nowadays. But then so the bonus sort of sixth force would be the complements, which are just the Windows platform in general and the Microsoft Office platform, as well as Azure, LinkedIn, which is one of their new acquisitions, and Xbox. Now, moving on to VRIO and strategic resource gap, uh, s- focusing specifically on Azure and AI integration and the cloud computing section of their company. So Azure and AI integration massively improve productivity, and enterprise efficiency, which then creates steady cash flows. And this happens because they're able to use AI to streamline their internal processes, which can help just as much as external processes. In terms of the rarity, it's a pretty rare resource since they're one of the few major companies to possess such a wide variety of cloud resources. And then the immutability would be a low threat since it requires so much capital and so much time, like I mentioned before. And then the organization is sustained to use these resources. They use them through integrated business units, and they have many different subscription systems for all their divisions. And then the strategic resource gap would be between them. When it comes to this, they're pretty much at the top of the field, but companies like Google and like Apple have also really strong systems like these. So AI regulation risks can cause some problems. Dependence on ChatGPT, since that's pretty much the main large language model at this point, and just strong competitors in general are keeping them a little bit from getting them to where they could be. Their business level strategy would be a differentiation strategy since they have high prices for most of their products and services, but a very wide variety of products and services. So they offer a lot of innovation. They're one of the pioneers in ecosystem integration with Azure and Office. Um, They're known as one of the most reliable companies in the world, and they have a lot of enterprise trust. And once again, like I mentioned, they have a lot of not only external but also internal AI capabilities that are creating a lot of opportunities for them. Now, onto their corporate level strategy. This would be one of the strongest aspects of their strategic management since they're just constantly growing and expanding. They're developing the AI and cloud infrastructure, as I've said. They have a new partnership with OpenAI, who owns or who operates ChatGPT. And then they've made several acquisitions just over the last few years, like LinkedIn, which is such a big one that I think everyone has heard of, GitHub, and Activision Blizzard. But this is really proving that they're never in a downhill phase. They're always at least steady or growing very steadily. So, my interpretation of all these analyses would be that obviously Microsoft has solidified itself as not just a successful company, but it is sort of a foundation that our world runs on at this point. Um, and I'm just a student. I want to be humble, but while they have clearly shown their strategic management prowess, there are also a couple of areas where they could improve. So my first strategic recommendation would be strengthening responsible AI governance. And by this, I mean getting more involved in the legal part of this and raising awareness as to how people can use AI responsibly and why it can be such a good thing for us. It's right now probably the biggest roadblock in their path towards expansion. And so they just need to show people that there are eco-friendly, ethical, and transparent AI systems, which reduces regulatory and legal risk, as well as just a lot of social stigma that people might not want to support Microsoft over. My second strategic recommendation would be to improve cybersecurity leadership. This is sort of just to make not only the customers, but also the employees feel just more comfortable with Microsoft as a company. So investing in just all around cyber defense, dealing with AI-based cyber threats, which I know there are a lot of developments in how to deal with that recently. And then they could also just educate the public on cyber issues because I know for myself, as sort of the average person when it comes to tech knowledge, I don't really know how cyber issues and cyber attacks work. So I think if I felt a little more comfortable knowing what's going on there, I could trust a company like Microsoft just a little bit more. And finally, my third strategic recommendation, it's less of a recommendation, but more of a continuation. I think they should continue to expand the Azure and consumer ecosystem integration system. Um, because I mean, it's clearly being shown that it is a strong foundation that they already have, which is supporting the company massively. And it's one of the strongest assets the company still has today. And if they continue to seamlessly integrate their systems, it will massively increase their market share. And then here are my works cited, 2, 3, and that's it. Thank you very much.